Ambassador Kirk, more than 40 ministers are gathered at the OECD this week to talk about an issue that's central to very many governments around the world, including your own. And that, of course, is the global economic crisis. Can you tell us your views on how the crisis impacts upon trade policies?
Well, Ken, I think, and I love the way you put that, because I think the opportunities come out of this extraordinary economic challenge when in many of our countries, with job losses mounting and more people, anxious about their own futures, there is a very broad temptation to turn inward, to focus first on your own economic development. And so I would say our first challenge, at least as trade ministers, is to always keep in mind the extraordinary benefit that has come to all of our member countries as well as the world through the increased global trade liberalization over the last 40, 50 years, and always have that as a point of reference of the benefit of having and maintaining open markets. Secondly, I do think we have to be careful not to overreact to efforts being taken by individual countries to shore up their own economies, because if you don't have those strong domestic economies, then that can lead to a fissure and breakdown of the global trading system that we all depend on.
Okay. You mentioned the importance of opening markets further. Many economists, including many of us here at the OECD, have been advocating for quite some time further trade liberalization as an essential element of restarting the global economy. What's the problem at the WTO? What can we do? What might you do to reinvigorate negotiations?
Well, two things. One, I think the OECD and in particular the economic data that it puts out may be more valuable and relevant now than it's ever been before, in just helping to remind us of the reality of the benefits of global trade and maintaining that and expanding that. Secondly, with respect to the existing Doha round of talks within the WTO, I think a little bit of perspective may be helpful in that it took 8 years to get the Uruguay round done, and we're now, I guess, in our 7.5 or 8th year of the Doha round. When you're dealing with 150 countries with as diverse interests as those from, the least developed countries that really have, very little economy at all, to the most developed countries, it's hard to sometimes find that common ground. But we believe, and the United States is prepared to provide a leadership role in that completion of the Doha round can be a huge boost to the global trading community. But President Obama and I believe to do that, we have to all be willing to explore new avenues and think more creatively about how we can bring Doha to a conclusion, and we're prepared to do that.
Okay. We've talked about the benefits of opening markets further, but some people out there are skeptical of freer trade. They're worried about their jobs. What do you say to these people?
Well, one, I think we have to acknowledge that. I think for those of us who believe in trade, I think some of us have been too quick to dismiss sometimes legitimate concerns about the negative effects of trade as being protectionist, while those on the other hand that are most cynical about trade, I think, are too quick to dismiss the benefits of it. So from my time as mayor, we used to always have a wonderful saying with my police chief and our city manager that the truth is always an option. So one, I think we've got a good story to tell, both in terms of the benefits of trade, what liberalization has done to the global economy, how it's turned economies around, and some of the least developed countries help to boost trade between entities like the EU and the United States and others. But then secondly, I believe a case can be made, even in this economic downturn, that we can say to the world, those of you that have said that you're skeptical about trade and you want to see it come to a standstill, well, we just have come through a period now, or in a period in which global trade has declined by almost 9%, the lowest levels since World War II. And what we have seen is how that has impacted each of our economies with job losses and job stalls. So I think that makes a case for the strength of a more robust economy in which we keep markets open, in which we try to continue to liberalize trade. And so I think now more than ever the work of the OECD, the WTO, and others is going to be more critical in helping us keep that necessary balance to make sure that we do everything we can to fight protectionism, to make sure that we deal with and remove not only official barriers but non-tariff barriers to trade so that we can get trade flowing and help restore the world's economy.
Ambassador Kirk, thank you for your time.
Ken, thank you so much for having us.
Pleasure.